Well,
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Say Report. I'm your host, Devon Decker, and joining me, my host companion, Mr. Asshole, Sejohn Sarowick.
going the full way, apparently.
Yeah, I went big. I went big or went home. You thought that I was just calling you an asshole, like in the privacy of our own conversation? We're live, motherfucker.
All right, here we go.
I'm upset. That's why we're live. And I couldn't contain it any longer. I could not contain my anger any longer.
Why are you so angry, Devon?
Well, but Sejohn, why don't we start with you? No. I am angry because last night I muscled through a movie that 7 years ago, 33 minutes in, I just said nope and walked away.
So you had to do it. You had to go back and finish it.
I had to go back and finish it. It's not American Beauty. I'm like, well, maybe I'm just not in the mood for it today, right? Like, let's try it.
Okay.
So I decided the perfect time to start 500 Days of Summer was 11 o'clock at night. After a nice full day.
I had a good day. What can I do to ruin it?
What can I do? What can I do right now to ruin my day? So at 11 o'clock at night, the 500 Days of Summer comes on, and it goes until 12:45. And I was painfully aware of every single minute of that movie.
Oh man, this is unfortunate. Usually our fans are treated to like a nice back and forth like dichotomy of like ideas being shared, but I gotta be honest, I have no love for that movie either.
Dude, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. First of all, because the title of the episode makes sense, right? Because usually we share ideas and we try to be happy, but that movie bummed me out.
Yeah,
like it just bummed me out. Yeah. And not because like it's a bummer of a movie. Not because, like, there's a lot of down in that movie. It's like, I don't know, like, it's not a romantic comedy. I wouldn't call it that. But it's not like a romantic tragedy either.
No, it's not The Breakup, which you want a romantic tragedy trying to sell itself as a comedy. Watch the trailer for The Breakup and then watch The Breakup and then hate yourself for watching the trailer first.
I love you. I love that you're like, watch the trailer first. Because he is not wrong. I worked at Blockbuster Video when The Breakup came out, and I was like, and I saw that trailer 3-4 times a shift, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna watch this movie. I like Ben Affleck. That's not his name.
Vince Vaughn. It's Vince Vaughn in that one.
And Jennifer Aniston. How could this go wrong? It goes very wrong. The fact that they were then in duplex together boggles my mind.
Oh man,
that's where I'm
Vince Vaughn is we'll have to dedicate a day to Vince Vaughn and talk about his like weird career path that he's going on.
Oh, you mean being awesome again?
All right, well, like being awesome in drama, then being awesome in comedy, then being weird for a while, then being awesome in comedy and then drama.
Like it's the thing. Like he was in Happy Texas.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
was he in Happy Texas? I don't know. He's been in a lot. He's been in a.
Texas.
That's very true. He's just been in a bunch of downer shit too. Like so, it's like it's unfortunate that like most people think Vince Vaughn and they think Wedding Crashers.
It is fortunate though that they don't think shot-for-shot remake of Psycho.
Yeah, that is super fortunate for Vince Vaughn. That's how he still gets work.
End up being in he ends up being in Terran, what's his name's horror like gothic thing with Jennifer Lopez there, The Cell, right? Isn't he in The Cell?
He is in The Cell. I remember him in The Cell and I'm like, what is this? What are you doing here, Vince Vaughn? This is not Rudy.
Oh god. Anyway, yeah, so we're gonna have to dedicate some time to Vince Vaughn.
Yeah, I would love to talk about Vince Vaughn. He's fantastic. But like,
so you watch 500 Days of Summer. So I watch 500 Days of Summer. A topic we're actively avoiding.
I know, and that's fair, and it's fine. But I want to talk about it because, like I said, 33 minutes in is when I walked away the first time. Would you care to venture a guess as to what happens 33 minutes in?
Is that the I'm trying to think of what weird thing happens at that moment. Is that the musical? No, what is the?
You're so close. Just trust your gut.
Is it the music part? Is it the musical part?
It is the musical part. Yeah. Now let me tell you, because I went through the exact same like character study I went through 7 years ago. And I have to say 7 years ago, I believe it was 2011. I might be off on the time frame, but I did not see it in theaters, and then I worked on the ocean for a year. So 2011 just makes sense to me. First of all, the musical sequence is set to Hall & Oates, "You Make My Dreams Come True." That's a big check plus for 500 Days of Summer. Even if I'm not feeling the movie up to that point, I'm like, all right, here's some Hall & fucking Oates. You want to like be my best friend? Hall & Oates.
You know how you save a movie? Hall & Oates. You know how I know that? TJ Miller in She's Too Good for Me? No, what's your number?
She's out of my league.
She's Out of My League. Yeah. TJ Miller and She's Out of My League saves that movie with his Hall & Oates cover band.
That is very true. That Hall & Oates cover band is... I discovered Hall & Oates because of Ed. Remember Ed? We've talked about Ed before.
Oh, man, yeah.
I would love an episode
what's his nuts from
dedicated
Flash
to
there.
Ed. Mr. Lucidity is the name of the episode. It is season 3, episode 10. And I know that because, like, I specifically cut Theater 143 Costume History, 144, because I took them out of order.
Sorry, you did.
Costume History 2. I specifically cut class that day to watch it on TBS. Because fuck you, TBS. My freshman year of college, they played Ed in syndication, but only during the day. So, like, if there was an episode of Ed I wanted to see, I would cut class. And I would tape it. Like, that's the best part. Like, well, while I'm here, I'll tape it, too. Because I had a VCR in my dorm. Dear God, I was a crazy person in college, wasn't I?
I mean, not really. When we went to college, having a VCR kind of meant that you had the best of both worlds. I had the VCR DVD combo when I got there a couple years later.
Yeah, but yeah, so that's what I did. Like I taped that episode, Mr. Lucidity, and it's because it was like the only episode of Ed I had never seen, which I think is something interesting and something that we should like explore. Because like as DVD sets became the norm in our lives, I would find like that one episode.
That you barely remember,
seen.
Right?
Like usually that I had not seen, because that's the only reason I wouldn't remember it at all.
Right.
And that was the episode for me, Mr. Lucidity, because I'm like lucid dreaming as the entire premise of an episode of Ed. Sign me up. How did I not see this? And in it, they flash back to when they're like 10 years old, which like it has one of my favorite jokes because Mike makes a 10-set bet with him, and he's like, "We bet $10," and he's like, "I'm trying to be cute," and he's like, "It's not cute. It's always been $10." And playing at the bowling alley when they're 10 years old is Hall & Oates, and they do "I Can't Go For That." That is the song that is in that episode.
Nice.
Which like. That's fucking great, Hall & Oates.
Yeah, because it's a nice, like, it's a kind of a deep pull, but also just totally emblematic of them. So, yeah.
I mean, like, I've read articles. First of all, Hall & Oates are not Yacht Rock. I don't think we've ever talked about Yacht Rock on the show. I have a lot of heavy feelings about Yacht Rock as a genre and as a description of music.
You have to do something for me that I feared I'd never have to ask somebody to do, and explain to me what the fuck that genre of music is.
Oh, excellent. Yacht Rock is music taking place from 1975 to 1982. Yeah, I believe that's 84. It's 75 to 84, and it is music that is emblematic of smoothness, which really means that it is taking jazz and mixing it with the popular music of the time.
So it's adult contemporary.
It's
for
basically
the, like, late
adult
70s.
Contemporary from 75 to 84.
Okay.
It is the people that are emblematic of it. If Yacht Rock were a stool, right, a 3-legged stool, the 3 legs that it would stand upon would be the Doobie Brothers. Once Michael McDonald joined them, Toto, and Steely Dan.
Huh. Okay.
Those are your 3 triangles of the Triforce of Yacht Rock.
What's interesting is you actually Steely Dan is somebody I can respect though. Out of that, when you first said this, I thought you were talking like Phil Collins knockoffs, like that style of music. But
no, I mean Phil Collins didn't really hit the stage till 82.
Right.
If you want to be honest with it,
he was definitely informed by this genre.
Yeah, I mean a lot of people were informed by it. I mean, Kenny Loggins was a big like part of it as well, like his early stuff done with McDonald.
Okay.
Basically, if Michael McDonald is singing background on your song, it's probably a Yacht Rock song, but also that's sort of like a broad genre to place it into.
Oh man.
But like a lot of people call Hall & Oates Yacht Rock, and it makes sense. It fits the time period. But another thing that's emblematic of Yacht Rock is that it's West Coast music, like specifically done in California, and it was a lot of like the same session musicians were in on it. Like Toto is all over fucking Yacht Rock.
Well, and that's a jazz thing through and through, right?
Yeah.
Like you have a guy that this is the thing that he does. That's who you call in to do that thing when you want it on your CD or album.
Yeah, like Jay Graydon. If Jay Graydon is playing guitar on a song, it's probably Yacht Rock. If Eddie Porcaro is on your song, it's probably Yacht Rock. So it's a whole thing. But my father, when we were in Maine last summer, wow, I have moved so far away from 500 Days of Summer. I'm so proud of myself. But like this is stuff that like I can't believe we've never talked about. Because if you're asking me to define Yacht Rock to you, then I have never said the words Yacht Rock to you.
Yeah,
that is what that means to me.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's entirely true. I'm fascinated right now. I am mystified at this conversation. Keep going.
Well, XM Radio, which we have in our Elantra, the one that we drove to Bowling Green, Will and I, the one that popped the tire.
Oh man.
We have XM Radio, and they have a rotating channel that, like, during that time we were driving out to you was Road Trip Radio, and over the summer it becomes Yacht Rock Radio. But Yacht Rock Radio is a station that exists in the high 300s. Unfortunately, most cars only go to like 200. It's crazy. Okay. Like XM radio is a fucking bullshit.
Yeah, no. Satellite radio is like that weird dinosaur that's just gonna stick around too long. I am sorry, you keep saying Yacht Rock Radio, and I just keep trying to think of what that movie looks like. Because when the Ramones did Rock and Roll High School, Rock and Roll Radio is one of my favorite songs in that, and now I'm just thinking of PJ Souls with Steely Dan sitting at the end of her bed.
Yacht Rock High School. Oh man,
Yacht Rock Radio.
So my parents bought a Jeep, like I think it's a Laredo. I don't know what a Cherokee. It's a Jeep Cherokee Laredo. Okay. And so over the summer we drove it up to Maine to stay at my aunt's cabin, and that one goes up to the high 300s. So we would listen to Yacht Rock Radio because let me tell you something. If you're listening to Yacht Rock Radio, it's like a good song no matter what. Like, it's good friggin' music if you like that style of music.
Right.
But they have a lot of problems with what it is. So my father, while we're driving through the wilds of Maine, goes, "What the fuck is Yacht Rock?" And I give him the exact same spiel that I just gave to you. And my mother peppers in, because my mother, we've been listening to it for so long that, like, we've started to pick it up, and we play a game like That's Not Yacht Rock, and, like, Brandy, You're a Fine Girl. Dude, Brandy, You're a Fine Girl by Looking Glass is not Yacht Rock. It is 1972, and it is about the dockyards, but that does not make it Yacht Rock.
But no, but see, that's you gotta go by oldies radio station rules when they're just like, we're gonna do this music of the 70s and the music that inspired it. So that way that gives them a wide range before the 70s to do as well. So like Yacht Rock Radio, yeah, that gives you like 7 years. But what you gotta do is you gotta do like Yacht Rock Radio and all the music before it. Like that's what they're doing.
Right, exactly. But like whenever Brandy or a Fine Girl comes on, it's also weird because like Yacht Rock has had like a weird resurgence, but maybe it's just Bader-Meinhof syndrome coming into play with Yacht Rock. But like
it's always been around you, Devon.
Season 2, episode 1 of Speechless, he's like, "You ruined my Yacht Rock summer."
Oh my God! How did I miss that?
And then he does a parody of Brandy, You're a Fine Girl. Actually, he does a parody of, and they make this. They say it every time like this: Brandy, open parenthesis, you're a fine girl, close parenthesis, by Looking Glass. That is just excellent. Like it is, and it's perfect. And it also like weirdly describes our family, the Decker family. Not our family, but the Decker family.
Open parenthesis, close parenthesis.
So it was like this real weird moment for all of us. But even my father goes, "This isn't fucking Yacht Rock," because we've gotten to his head about it. But that day in the wilds of Maine, where he's like, "What the fuck is Yacht Rock?" and we do the whole spiel that I gave to you. He goes, "You know what? I have my fucking tablet. I'm looking it up because you people sound like fucking idiots." So he looks up Yacht Rock, and what he ends up finding is the 6 most influential songs of Yacht Rock. And I swear this is where it all ties together. And number 1 on that list, the number 1 best Yacht Rock song, according to that list, was "I Can't Go For That" by Hall & Oates.
That's awesome. That's
and now,
fantastic.
So I can't go for, and I love that song. I absolutely do. And that's why I can't go for that. But when that same year, that same freshman year of college, Pepsi was having a thing. I don't like Pepsi. I am Coke through and through. If the Cola Wars started up again, I would sign up for the Coca-Cola side. They'd put me in officer training school. Yeah. Because I need to be on the front. I can't be on the front lines. I need to be planning our attack to take down Pepsi Cola. And where will Dr. Pepper lie? It is essentially Switzerland, the Switzerland of the Cola Wars. Sometimes it's bottled by Pepsi, sometimes it's bottled by Coke. It's fucking crazy. I'm gone. All I'm drinking is black cherry water, but I'm gone. So. I am a Coke guy, but that first year of college, Pepsi had a promo where every bottle of Pepsi you bought came with a free download on iTunes.
Right.
And URI is a fucking Pepsi school.
Yes, through and through, to everyone's chagrin. But anyway.
So, yes. So, like, I'm like, well, you know what? It's only $1 for a Pepsi at this one broken vending machine in the Fine Arts building. Mm-hmm. I'm going to drink a shitload of Pepsi, and I'm going to finally start downloading songs on iTunes. Right? It was like a real growth period for Devon Decker.
Yeah, this is when they got you. This is how Apple sank its claws into you. I never went through this. I was a Coke man through and through, even through the Pepsi cold times.
I love you, man. I absolutely do. But one of the first songs, actually, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it was the 7th song that I downloaded.
I just realized what I was doing at this time. While you were sitting around hoarding Pepsi caps so that you could download songs, I was breaking into Kevin Tebow's dorm room so that I could steal Coke codes off all of the 12-packs he kept buying.
That had to have been a year later, unfortunately, but you're right. That is definitely a thing that you did.
I know. I had so many Coke underwears.
And you are not wrong about me hoarding Pepsi bottle caps, because I would see them, I would take them.
You took them from people.
What?
You took them from people, didn't you?
I definitely did. Oh, dude. Why wouldn't you? I had, like, other bottle caps, and I'm like, hey, let's trade. It's like Pogs, but we're 18 now. And, like, the 7th song I downloaded was I Can't Go For That by Hall & Oates. And, like, that was literally it. That was all I knew for Hall & Oates. And then Julius Galgozzi, I love Julius, right? Like, I think that's the first time his name has been said on the show. He's cleaning out the scene shop, and he's like, do you want this? And he hands me an ammo tin full of old cassettes. And I'm like, yeah, why not? Because my car at the time only had a cassette player. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, this is going to be fucking awesome.
Man, I still have some of my ammo tins around from when he was giving stuff away.
Oh, yeah, dude. I bet you do. I still have those cassettes that he gave me. Because awesome. One of those faithful cassettes was The Stranger by Billy Joel. And that is the greatest Billy Joel album of all time. Not related to the story, just like big ups to The Stranger.
yeah. Just, shout out to the man himself, the piano man himself.
One of the other ones was Rockin' Soul Part 1, the greatest hits of Daryl Hall and Josh Oates. John Oates, I'm sorry.
Oh, God, Josh they're Oates never called by their first name.
Oh, I do respect for Hall & Oates. Daryl and John, Devon Decker got your back. And the best part about that album is that it is side 1 and side A, because they do not want to call either of them like less than what they should be. There is no side 2.
There are no B-sides. There are no B-sides.
is excellent. It's just
That's so good.
And so very shortly after that, I started delivering flowers, and that was like all I listened to was Hall & Oates Rock and Soul Part 1. And there's just such a great collection of music on there. Obviously, right? There's no B-side. So that's my whole Hall & Oates journey. So I fucking love Hall & Oates. So 31 minutes into 500 Days of Summer, spoilers for 500 Days of Summer, by the way, right? We got 20 minutes into this episode without mentioning that, like, spoilers for that fucking movie.
Yeah.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Zooey Deschanel fucking fuck. They do it.
Surprise.
Like, they have sex, and you're like, oh, okay. And then it goes into this lavish musical number set over You Make My Dreams Come True by Hall & Oates. And I'm like, this is okay, right? I like this song. And I'm watching it. And it, like, to be fair, it's sort of like the I just had sex montage, right? Mm-hmm. Hundreds of movies have done them. They're pretty much they're offensive now in 2018, but like they were pretty standard fare in the late 2000s.
Right.
Like, but
40-year-old virgin ends with a giant one.
Exactly. Yes, it does. Yeah. And that wasn't definitely the start of it, because I just had sex montages are like a forever thing in cinema. But and he does it, and it's fine, right? Because he's like dancing down the street and he's smiling at people. And then he starts shaking everybody's hands, like saying hello. And I'm like, all right, we're getting a little weirded out here, but it's okay, right? It's okay. And then then like a fucking marching band shows up, playing You Make My Dreams Come True, and then a lavish fucking dance number breaks out. And that's all minute 32. But at minute 33 of 500 Days of Summer, a fucking animated bluebird comes in. And they sing together, and I'm like, I'm fucking done. I'm out. And that right there, that story exemplifies my biggest problem with 500 Days of Summer, which is it's basically a series of gimmicks. The movie is like gimmicks upon gimmicks upon gimmicks.
Right.
But they always go on too fucking long.
Yes.
Like, so once you didn't earn a zippity fucking doodah reference 500 Days of Summer. I'm sorry. Right. Mr. Bluebird on his shoulder, like, I'm done. I was done with it. And I was done with it last night, which is why I looked down and saw, okay, it's 33 minutes into the movie. That's how far I got before.
That's how far I got the first time. So anything after that's just gravy, man. You're just beating your record at that point.
Yeah, but like, what a terrible record to beat.
So my thoughts on 500 Days of Summer. There's like this thing. We talked about this a little bit once, I think, before, where we talked about like kind of independent cinema and when it kind of got weird, right? Like, and it kind of came in and it was like, we're gonna do all of this. It became popular first, as all things do. It became popular, and then it got weird. So, like the mid '90s is like independent cinema becomes not independent anymore, really, and like all of these other companies start supporting it.
Thanks,
and you get
Miramax.
No. Yeah, I mean, you get things like Miramax coming in and Fox Searchlight and all that other stuff coming through, and like you end up at this moment where you end up with independent films that aren't really independent anymore. So they're able to do crazy things, right? And the first example of this is Garden State. That's like the apex example.
Oh my god, that is unfortunately everything is downhill from Garden State. And I will borrow a phrase from homestarrunner.com, email 203, Strongbad email 203, where he is asked to have an independent film festival. And he's like, you need to understand that there are two different ones. There are independent films and there are indie films. And what we are talking about specifically is the indie film.
Right.
An indie film is all the independent movie cred, but with a fucking Hollywood budget.
Right. So you've got Garden State, which ends up with this fantastic soundtrack that carries it, to be entirely fair. Like that movie is carried still to this day just simply by its soundtrack. But you end up with a lot of really good visuals, or a lot of really good actors, all because it's an indie film, which meaning it has an independent mindset, but it has all of the budget of a big budget movie, right? And that is 500 Days of Summer is a mere like 5 years later, if that. Right?
I believe it is exactly 5 years later.
5 years later.
Garden State was 2004.
Right. And so what you get is you end up with this becoming the prime example of like the indie film gone too far. Like it is just pushing its limits to a point that like and it needed to. I'm not even saying that it's a bad thing that it does this. It's just the reason why it doesn't work for you, Devon, and the reason why it didn't work for me is that it is just taking it too far, but somebody had to. And so 500 Days of Summer is that line that we all needed to know existed.
And you're 100% right. I 100% agree with you. It needed to be taken too far.
Right.
But like, and here's it. I am not upset that I watched the movie, but I am super pleased that I never have to watch it again.
Yeah.
And that is the best way that I can describe how I feel about this film.
And for anybody who's wondering about the trajectory of the indie film and where we are now with it, take a look at movies like Ides of March and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, just to stick with that, Don John. Like, take a look at what the indie film is now. Again, all of the budget of a big budget movie, but they've now started to tone it down a lot and dial it back so it feels like it's a much more personal project. And that's when you start to see stuff that, like...
Funny you should mention that, Sejohn.
Yeah.
The very first movie that the Deckers watched in the year 2018 was the perfect example of where the indie film is now. It was 2017's William H. Macy directed The Layover.
Nice.
Starring Kate Upton and Alexandra Daddario.
Fantastic.
And
about
that
the
movie,
two people that get like stuck in an airport together, right? And it's romantic comedy.
They, due to a hurricane, they get diverted to St. Louis and stuck at like just a shitty little hotel.
Oh, I thought they were stuck in the airport.
Nope, they end up checking into a hotel, and the whole thing is that Kate Upton is like fucking horny girl sleeping with every guy, and Alexandra Daddario is not. But then they're watching The Bachelor in like the beginning of the movie and talking about who would be better on The Bachelor. And then on the plane, one of them is window seat, one of them is aisle seat, and a hot dude is seated between them. So they decide to compete for his affection,
right?
Which is like Indie 101. And there's some twists and some turns, and I'm not going to ruin The Layover for you because it is totally worth watching.
Cool.
Like, after I finished it, I'm like, yeah, that was all right, but I have not thought about The Layover every day since I've watched it.
And I think that's the sign of a really successful indie film, is it's not so good that your mind is blown, but it's good enough that you can't stop thinking about it. And I think that that's what people forget when they see the next big indie film is they expect it to be mind-blowing, and then when it's not, they're just disappointed. And I think a good example of that was some of the backlash with like Get Out last year. Is a lot of people were just like, it didn't really change everything. And it's like, well, no. But as an indie film, it's super successful because you're still talking about it.
Oh, yeah,
right?
Get Out is the perfect example of an indie film as well. We're really good at naming indie films.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But that is, and you're right to, and Homestar Runner is right to draw that line between like indie and independent. But you were talking about like that era, that Garden State to 500 Days of Summer, that 5 years were the 5 years where we cultivated what the next level of independent cinema was going to be, and that was the indie film.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And it's also like everybody who directed a movie in that time went on to direct something bigger. Like Mark Webb, director of 500 Days of Summer. Would you care to venture a guess as to what his follow-up directorial debut would be?
Let's see. His name is Mark Webb. It couldn't possibly be that simple, could it?
Oh, it could. It could be that simple.
I think he did one of them Speedermans.
He did The Amazing Speederman, featuring Andrew Garfield, who hates our show because he hates Mondays.
Oh, no. Oh, God. That was so good on so many levels.
I really like. Thank you for patting me on the back there, Steve.
Affirmation.
Validation. Yeah, no, and that's his next thing, right? And I would never in a million years look at those two movies and be like, that's the same guy. That's the same guy.
Well, you wouldn't. Like, one of the big things that I love about the Amazing Spider-Man series is I'm like doing it now without even meaning to. Spider-Man series is I do love the focus on the like romantic comedy relationship between him and Gwen, right? So like it's one of those weird things, and Marvel's always really good at this, and this is a whole other tangent, but Marvel's really good at finding these indie filmmakers and letting them just make the movies they want to make. Perfect example of that is Ragnarok.
Yes, yes, that is, you're not wrong about that. Especially, yeah, there's Taika Waititi from What We Do in the Shadows, which is a fantastic movie that we have
Oh,
not
what's the one
talked
he did
about
with Sam
enough.
Neill? Fucking the one he just did with Sam Neill. The
Oh,
one about him and the kid lost out in the wilderness and like because they're running from the. Oh, what is the name
I
of
can't
that?
think of the name of it right now. But if you're looking for stuff online, can you tell me what the follow up for Mark Webb is? Because I'm like 99% sure it's For a Good Time, ellipsis,
Okay,
um, starring
weird.
Ari Graynor and featuring Mark Webb and Justin Long. I don't know if he directed it, though. And I think Dakota Fanning, maybe
I
Dakota Fanning
will.
in
I'm
For a
looking
Good
into it.
Time. I know, Sejohn, I'm trying to fill the space. You don't need to tell me that you're looking into it. I'm trying to fill the space. This is what professional radio is. While you look stuff up, I talk so that there's no dead air. Also, Mark Webb, for those, if you're a fan of this show, you probably like Edgar Wright. He plays Stephen Stills in Scott Pilgrim versus the World. If that, like, just if you just want your mind blown a little bit.
Does he really?
Yeah, he really does.
All right. So, his big thing right now is he's actually producing a bunch of stuff like Crazy Ex-Girlfriend and Limitless. But he just did Gifted with our boy Captain America there.
Oh, I really wanted to
Oh,
see that movie.
which one were you asking about though?
For a Good Time. I know he's
Uh,
definitely in that
he
movie.
does a bunch of Green Day stuff. I'm not kidding. He does a bunch of Green Day music videos right after 500 Days of Summer. Um, Amazing Spider-Man. Oh, some Avril Lavigne music videos. My
Avril
Chemical
Lavigne
Romance
was doing music
videos.
videos in 2012.
I am not finding. Oh, and he's doing. He directed some episodes of The Gifted. Oh no, that's Gifted with. Yep, nope. I'm
That's
not
Gifted
finding your
with Chris
thing.
Evans. All right, so can you look up For a Good Time? Because I feel
Man, he
like
does
there's
a lot
some
of really good
Marcus
music
involved in
videos.
that, and now I
This
feel like a real jerk.
motherfucker worked with Three Doors Down. Okay, he worked with Green Day from the beginning, though. He actually, one of his first things was working with Green Day on their International Super Videos DVD
Yeah,
that I
no,
owned. It was the first DVD I owned. So that's who Mark Webb
Mark
is.
Webb was known before 500 Days of Summer. He was primarily a music video director. I know that
Oh,
about him.
and so you wanted me to look up For a Good Time, right?
Yeah, with Ari Graynor. Is he in it? There's some Mark is involved with that movie, and I want to make sure I'm not getting them conflagrated in my head.
Oh, I know this movie. Okay, now I know what you're talking about. Okay, and you want to know if he's like a
Is he in it? Who directed that film?
Jamie Travis. He might be a producer on it because he's a big producer. So hold on, let me look up
Yeah.
that.
Or like, there's a guy in the movie. Is the guy who plays Stephen Stills in Scott Pilgrim? It's the
Why
same
did you?
actor. And I feel like that's Mark Webb, but I also feel like maybe I'm a fucking idiot.
I am not seeing Mark Webb associated with this film.
All right, who
Why were you doing this? Why are you doing this? We don't fact check on this show.
I
Why
know.
would you
Why am I
ever
making you
introduce
fact
fact
check?
checking?
Because
2018, the year we introduced fact checking, and it all went
it
downhill.
all went downhill after that. Oh, you're right. You're right. There's been 357 days of bummer. Why ruin it now? Because fucking God damn it, Days of Summer. They ruined She's Like the Wind for me. They didn't
Yeah.
ruin it because that song's fucking my jam. Like that song came on a couple of days ago, and I'm like, this my fucking jam. Turned
Oh,
down
man.
for what? I'm crazy for Swayze.
Oh God. But you feel like I don't
I
know.
feel like
You
I've
feel
gotten
like
it off my chest.
yeah.
It really, and what it is that like it is nothing but gimmicks. It is gimmick, 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 gimmick.
Hmm.
It is Clark Gregg 2 years after Iron Man. Like you just want to like blow your mind. It's just crazy. It's this insane fucking movie that exists that goes too far. And you're right. Like it was necessary. Like we needed to find the fucking line for indie films.
Yeah,
And then
and
like,
I feel like we might get some hate out there for some people who like love this movie because I feel like it's one of those movies that has a huge like following to it.
oh, let me tell you, I've already gotten some hate for it because last night while watching it, the only person I'm like, well, I can text him and he won't get mad at me, even though it's 11 o'clock at night, was Will. And I wrote, "She's like the wind, really?" And his response was, "Oh, you watching 500 Days of Summer?" So fuck him just a little bit for like knowing exactly what those 4 words meant. She's like the wind. 5 words meant. And like breaking the code. And then he's like, "That movie is great. We have to watch it together, and I will explain to you why." And I'm like, so wait, I need to watch it again? I thought I was free. I already got hate from Will. So like
Yeah.
I've been luckily been using today to gird myself and put up a protective force field against people who like this movie coming at us. But it's just it just didn't work for me. And like maybe it would have worked if I saw it in 2009. Like maybe there was some sweet spot there. But let me tell you a version of this movie that works. Because both my sister and I said it simultaneously this morning, speaking about it, and that is What If, starring Harry Potter himself and a girl from Ruby Sparks.
Yeah.
That movie, and Adam Driver's in that film. And that movie works. That's another one of those 98% of this movie works. And then they added a scene for the American release of that film showing you that they get together. Spoilers for What If. Right? But I don't believe that this happened in the movie, especially because Canadian releases of this movie do not feature that scene. In America, they're too dumb, and they won't like this movie unless we show them get together. That's a real honest thing that I just told you.
I mean, I don't doubt it. American cuts of films are always kind of weird and funny, and when you compare them to some other markets.
And I'm just like, it's ridiculous to me. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
Man. So is that what you spent your time doing this week? Was just like trying to formulate your argument against 500 Days of Summer?
I also set up like a really. Well, it was my birthday, right? Like let's not talk about. Like I buried the lead.
Happy birthday!
Yeah, my birthday was Thursday. Last Thursday, January 4th. That was a good time. My parents got me a Yeti microphone, so I basically reconfigured all of my video game stuff in the basement. So that I have like a streaming station and a podcast station, because I'm cool.
Man, that's awesome though. Like getting your rig set up is a really good feeling.
Oh, it feels real good. And I'm going to be playing Demon's Souls again, which is the hardest game to say.
Really? Is it pluralized demon? Is that what it is?
It's
Demons?
possessive demon.
Oh, Demon's Souls. Demon's Souls. Oh man.
Demon's Souls. Yeah, it's hard. It's a very difficult pronunciation.
You got to put the emphasis in a different place on demon. That's what you got to do. Demon's Souls.
There you go. Oh, it totally changed the game now. It's Demon's Souls. It's the souls of demons.
Oh God, these souls mans.
Yep, we went there.
Yep.
2018, Jamaica.
Say Report Jamaica would be an amazing spin-off
Dude,
for like
great.
6 episodes.
All right, we'll talk about it. Maybe for the
Don't
Winter
worry,
Olympics.
We'll backdoor a pilot in here, folks. Don't worry.
Hey, Daddy-O.
Oh God.
Yeah, so that's I've just been playing a bunch of video games. I got the last Christmas gift that my parents got for me finally came in just today. And I played through The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, an actual Japanese cart.
Oh man.
So that's was cool.
Amazing.
That was very cool. And it was a lot of fun because I don't read Japanese, but like there are full cutscenes of Japanese. So I just had a lot of fun making up what they were saying. Like,
I mean, you played enough of that game to kind of know what they're doing, right?
Well, like, so I like posted about my parents getting it for me, and one of my friends who was like stationed overseas was like, "If you were looking for Japanese carts, I could have got them for you while I was over there." And I'm like, "That's a real kind offer." But the only game that I could play in Japanese is Link to the Past.
Yeah, you're not that crazy, but you're a little crazy.
like Do Re Mi Fantasy, I think.
Mhm.
I mean, like when I was 9 years old, I tried to. Was it not? No, I was a little bit older. I must have been like 13. I tried to play through Final Fantasy V on Super
Mm,
Nintendo. Like that was
okay.
my first like foray into emulation, and that
Okay.
was all Japanese. I had no idea what was going
I
on.
was actually I was going to say that because of emulation, I've actually been forced to play a lot of games in Japanese. Not that I'm saying I speak Japanese now, but I'm over the fact that I might not understand what's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
First time I played through Chrono Trigger, it was all in Japanese. The first time I played through a couple of Final Fantasies, I have now played all of Goof Troop multiple times in Japanese.
Have you beaten every level? You've disappointed me. We're going to do that together.
No, 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 no. I've been doing the easier settings. I
Right.
just have been playing with trying to figure out what the differences truly are, and they don't seem like many. But anyway, that's a story for another time. Um, but yeah, so like Japanese releases of games that I've been kind of forced to like look at in that way is it's okay by me.
Yeah, no, it doesn't bother me, but it's like they still happen, right? Like you don't
Hmm.
get to the one problem with cutscenes in like the 90s where like you couldn't skip them.
Right. Yep.
So I'm still sitting at this lady for like a good minute being like Japanese, Japanese, Japanese. So then I just started like saying stuff. And my favorite one is, I mean, like Link to the Past. You're familiar with it enough, right?
Hmm.
You beat the wizard Aghanim, right? And
Right.
his like punishment for you defeating him is he pulls you into the dark world. He's like, I'm gonna send you to the dark world where I just sent the 7 girls that
Yeah.
Ganon needs to get this power. But like also, you couldn't have gone to the dark world unless he did that. Because all of the items you need to access the dark world are correctly kept
Right.
in the dark world.
His downfall is his hubris, Devin. He is hubris.
He is hubris embodied.
hubris. He is hubral. What is the word? What is the word for hubris?
Yeah, I don't know how someone expresses his hubris is his downfall. Is the word that you would say. But like, so that whole speech, like Harasala gives you a huge speech at the top of the Golden Pyramid, and that whole thing, I'm just like, oh, in his anger, he pulled you into the Dark World, which is fortuitous because you couldn't have gotten here otherwise. I recommend you go to the Palace of Darkness. There's a hammer there. You're gonna need that to get to other Dark World places. Look out for monkeys. They love rupees and they're kind of jerks.
Monkeys in video games are always jerks, though. I mean, look at any Pitfall or Crypt of the Necromancer. Monkeys are the worst.
That was quite a wide range of video games.
I'm just saying. That's exactly my point. Every video game in which there is a monkey, they are a pain in the butt.
I like now can't think of any non-pain in the butt monkeys. Like Donkey Kong, he's an ape. Sorry.
Yeah, and he was kind of a pain in the butt.
Apologies. He's a huge pain in the butt. He's capturing Pauline. He's disrupting Mario as he goes on like job training. Can we talk about that? Can we talk about the fact that in the original Donkey Kong, right? Like, he's a construction worker. That's what it is. Donkey Kong climbs up the construction site that Mario is working at. Here called Jumpman, but we'll continue to call him Mario. Are you okay with this concession?
I mean, yes. Yes. Jumpman is who he does, or what he does, not who he is.
Jumpman is his title.
Yes, I get that.
No, I get it. I'm agreeing with you. I was saying it more succinctly.
Okay,
Um,
thanks. That's fair. That's fair.
So you beat him at the construction site, and then you go to the second screen, which is ladders, because of all the ladders and the springs, and it's like, what is this now? Is this another construction site? I don't understand what's happening here.
He's pulled you into the construction world.
But then the third level is a motherfucking pie factory. What does that have to do with the other two?
You're chasing him through all of downtown. First you got through your construction site, and then you got through the more built construction site next door. You know, they had ladders up to all the different levels they were working on. And then next door to that is a giant pie factory.
Yes. I mean, you're right. You're not wrong. The pie factory, like, it makes sense why it was removed from the NES version of the game. Because it makes no fucking sense in the pacing of Donkey Kong.
Yeah, in this game that's not King Kong but King Kong, we need to make sure that we make some grounded decisions about where we go as Jumpman.
Pie Factory it is. Oh, Jesus. What are we talking about? What are we doing here? How have you been? I have dominated this fucking episode.
Well, I've been hanging out with Jumpman. That's what I've been doing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I love how it's
Jumpman
funny
and the
that
Rabbids, or did you go on a trip with him?
No, I have not yet. Okay, so we ended up with a copy of Odyssey in the house, and that's going to happen. That's going to happen. I've actually started a joint game, but I have not started one of my own yet. But anyway, so more to come on Mario Odyssey as I discover some stuff
Jump up
now.
super high.
But what I've been playing is a fuck ton of Mario Rabbids. But I do want to talk about Mario Rabbids, but I have a funny feeling I'm going to be talking about it for multiple episodes going forward because of some thoughts that I'm having on it. So I'm trying to figure out exactly how to organize this here. I think I want to talk about something that you brought up last week.
Okay.
I am kind of
Please.
interested. I am kind of interested in like it might have been a couple of weeks ago, but in like the final moments of the show, you said something that I was like, well, we should talk about that, but it's the final moments of the show and we don't have time for this. So I held on to it. But we mentioned something about DLC and DLC culture, and you seemed rather unhappy.
Oh, I am not happy at all with DLC culture.
Yeah, and so I'm kind of interested in getting into that for a couple minutes, especially because it was just announced this week that in my love of this Mario Rabbids game, that in June I might actually be getting a whole new like level and possible like character updates and stuff. And I am super excited for that. I love DLC culture.
Okay, but what you just described is good DLC culture.
Okay, so talk to me. Yeah,
because here's the thing. If that extra level and character options had been available the exact same day as Mario and Rabbids came out, would you still be excited about it?
Well,
because if it's released the same day as the game,
and
on
it's
some
just not
level,
it
feels
it's just like, hey, you pay us more money for this other stuff that we've also got ready.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not cool.
That's something I don't agree with.
Yeah, that's a little uncomfortable because what you're talking about is the difference between new content and locked content, right? Like, hey, this stuff is on the disc, but we don't want to give it to you until you pay us even more money than you already have, and that sucks, for sure.
Yeah,
there's been some really poor examples of that in the past, for sure.
And the only reason why I like, and it's crazy that like it took me until I'm gonna say like 2015 is where I like really kind of fell off the DLC train. Okay. And the big reason for that is fucking Shovel Knight, because Shovel Knight I paid $20 for, and they're like every update will be fucking free.
And they've held to that.
And they have held to that, even though they could have, they would have easily gotten more money from me each time that it released. If like they're like Spectre Knight is actually $15, I would have bought it because that's how much I loved Shovel Knight. And like the way that but here's the crazy thing, because I know that there's no DLC, I have bought Shovel Knight 8 times. Like that's not being hyperbolic.
Well, you're not spending it on the DLC, right?
Right,
so,
exactly.
Yeah.
I've bought Shovel Knight on every platform possible, and I have bought it for other people. Like at their houses, so I can be like, "I'm gonna play Shovel Knight at your house."
And it's a utopic vision of how this should work, right? The fact of the matter is they've put out a phenomenal product, and you support that product. So every time they go out there and they show themselves, they're like, "Hey, we're gonna put another DLC out." You don't mind giving them money because you know that the product is worth it, and like you support the product. So like you want to give them that money, right? It's kind of that idyllic idea that was kind of behind a lot of the really early mobile game stuff is like, hey, we have some other stuff we could do for you, but we need like $2 first. So like send us $2 and maybe we send you some stuff. And it's just like, yeah, sure, this game's worth me sending the developer $2 because I like it enough. And if it means more stuff down the line, then I want more, right? But that got corrupted somewhere along the way. And I know what you mean by bad DLC culture versus like good DLC culture. Because the thing is like, I know there's bad DLC out there. I mean, like, Battlefront last year proved that alone. Like, Star Wars Battlefront is, there you go. Loot boxes is the inevitable end of this cycle.
Loot boxes are a step beyond DLC culture.
But like they are essentially immediate DLC.
They are the 500 Days of Summer of DLC culture. It is the fucking line. Look at that,
Yeah.
Sejohn. We did
There you
it.
go. Yeah, man. So like, there is definitely bad DLC out there, but man, I have played some good downloadable content in my life that I've always felt was like this couldn't have existed without this model being in place. And like things like extra levels, extra characters, like and stuff coming at you that, you know, maybe it's not free, but if it's only $10 on top of the 60 that I paid for the game, but you know, if it's 4 months later and it's a new chapter, sure, I'll throw $10 your way, which is probably what's going to happen with this Mario Rabbids stuff. Is it's probably going to be a $20 add-on, but that $20 in June when it comes out will probably feel totally worth it. I mean, it practically feels worth it now because I got the game when it was $40 before Nintendo got wise and raised the price on it. So
Right.
like, yeah, so like I would not mind throwing $20 more this game's way because like I really enjoyed it and I want to show my support for this product. But yeah, there's definitely been some bad stuff out there.
I mean, like the first example, like the first one that left a bad taste in my mouth, and why I've gotten here, is Batman Arkham City.
Okay.
Like, no doubt in my mind. And like before Batman Arkham City, I was a crazy motherfucker. Those are the exact words I'm going to use to describe myself. Like, I went out when God of War 3 came out. There were downloadable costumes if you got certain slushy flavors at 7-Eleven. And I went and made sure I tried every slushy flavor of 7-Eleven that unlocked a costume in God of War.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you exactly how many of those costumes I've used. Fucking 0. But I was just like, it hit me at a time where I had a lot of disposable income, and it hit me at a time where like I had a collector's mentality for a real long time. Thank fucking Christ for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Which, yes, I have buckets and buckets and buckets of Ninja Turtles paraphernalia. But, like, in collecting Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff, I met the fucking 500 Days of Summer of the collector.
Mm-hmm.
And that is people who are like, no, I need every single version of this book that comes out. I don't care that one is $450. And it is exactly the same thing as the one that is $200. I need everything.
Everything. Yeah.
And I'm like, see, but they're taking advantage of you, right? Like, that you're by wanting everything, they're taking advantage of you. And then it's like, oh shit, suddenly the blinders have been removed from my eyes.
I've been taken advantage of by corporations who could have guessed in this day and age in the country of America.
I mean, that was 2012, right? That like 2011, 2012, where I'm like punched in the face.
The year Devon got woke.
Thank you for that. You're a monster. But yeah, like, cause I was on forums and stuff, and I felt like I was contributing and having a good time. And then like I realized that like people didn't want information on forums; they just wanted to brag. Like they'd ask a question that was stupid, and I'd like, well, here's the answer to that question. I'm going to try to be a kind presence on the internet, and I would just get ripped apart. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that seems right. That seems like the proper response to me trying to help you.
Right.
So I learned from that. Thank God, right? Thank Christ. I learned from these interactions. But before that, Arkham City came out. And Arkham City, I don't know if you remember this.
I remember this. I remember exactly. I know exactly what you're about to talk
then
about.
why don't you say it? Why don't you tell the world?
I don't know who made this decision. I will not lay this on the developers' decision because they clearly would never want to.
I will lay it on
out.
WB Games.
WB Games is who I'll look at. But yeah, Rocksteady's follow-up to Arkham Asylum, like one of the greatest like developments in Batman and in video games. Like it developed a whole new fighting style that was then copied by like a bunch of games after it. So on top of being a really good like representation of Batman in video games, that was insane. That never happened before. Suddenly we also had a really cool like new style of video game to play. And so Arkham Asylum is, blows the doors open for this thing. So Arkham City comes out, and WB Games, realizing that they have the opportunity here to make some bank, turns to Rocksteady and is like, yo, why don't you rip out a 30-year game so that we can sell it as DLC? And it is the most egregious, like, chopping out of an entire... I kid you not, a third of that game is pulled away. 30% of that game is pulled out to be Catwoman DLC. And it is unbearable. I ended up, because I loved Arkham Asylum so much, before I knew anything that was going on, had already planned on and put my money down on a, like, Game of the Year style edition will give you everything right up front version of that game. Like I dropped $85 to make sure that I got that game and like whatever else they were going to add on, because the big thing was costumes I had heard about, and I was excited to play stupid costume Batmans.
Yep, more 7-Eleven download stuff.
Right,
That's
yeah,
how I
like
got
that kind
Batman
of goofy cosmetic stuff that like as a fan I'm into, but if I wasn't a fan, it's okay. I'm not missing anything by not buying it. Like that kind of stuff I was way into. So I dropped my money, and so I get the game and I'm playing it and I'm loving it, and then I'm slowly starting to find out that people are just like super pissed about the Catwoman stuff because they're not seeing it. So yeah, Devon, like I don't blame you for that being the line.
So I will paint a picture for you on that game. If you bought it new, in the box was the Catwoman DLC. Catwoman DLC was included only if you bought it new, because Warner Brothers Games decided that this was going to be their strike against GameStop. GameStop is essentially making money that should go to them. So they decided that if people are going to get it used, the only way they're going to get the DLC, the Catwoman part of this game, is if they download the DLC from the PlayStation Store. So
they took a beautiful thing and they made it a weapon. That's what they did.
They weaponized that. That's 100% what they did. They weaponized that whole system. And then like also that game was gifted to me early. Like my parents got that for me for Christmas the day that it came out. And the reason why is that if you bought it at Best Buy and like pre-ordered it, they had made sure that I would have like Robin and Nightwing. Like they did all that bullshit for me for Christmas.
Man, somebody should go back and look at the maps that were created for people to figure out where they should buy their Arkham City copy, because all of the pre-order bonuses were like insane. All of the
But like so against all of that, the game comes out and I'm just reading the internet one day. And, like, spoiler for Arkham City. And it's not like I'm reading, like, a Batman thing, right? Like, it was just, like, a thrown-away spoiler in an article not about Batman. And I went home and I'm like, I know it's a Christmas gift. You need to let me play this stupid fucking game. Because I'm not having it ruined for me. I am excited for this game. It is a follow-up to what, like you said, Arkham Asylum was fucking glorious.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, sure, that's completely fine. Just know it's a Christmas gift, right? You're not getting something in lieu of this because we gave it to you now. And I said, sure. And I put Dark Souls, the original Dark Souls, on hold so that I could play through Arkham City. And I was making good progress in Dark Souls, but I wanted to play through Arkham City. I was so excited for it. I didn't want it ruined. But, like you said, people were fucking pissed that the Catwoman stuff was not included. So I had it. I put in the code and I own it. It is part of my purchase history. I never installed it. Because I'm like, I don't need it. I don't need this Catwoman stuff, right? Because it's just Batman and Arkham Asylum. I'll enjoy this game sans Catwoman. And then I'll do the Catwoman stuff, right?
Right, yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I mean, why wouldn't you think that way? Because you're just like, oh, this is extra content. They didn't include it in the release of the game, so clearly I'm not going to focus on it right now. If I want to, I will go back to it later. Like, that's a totally legitimate way to go about it.
Right. So I do it, and I play through the game, and I'm like, that was kind of short. I 100%ed it as best I could. I 100%ed the story part of the game.
Right.
On hard mode. I got all the stupid Riddler trophies. The Hush missions, which are fucking bullshit, because it's basically like, go to this random place. I did it all. I did it all without guides. I was very proud of myself.
and it goes nowhere. The Hush stuff that leads nowhere.
All of it leads fucking nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's all just like side plots, because they're like, oh, like open world games have side plots. That's what people want. No, that's not what people want. They want a good game. They don't want fucking like bloated corpse that it resembles the game we liked before. So I do that, and then like you unlock New Game Plus mode, and I'm like, oh well, I'm gonna play through New Game fucking Plus mode, right? Like this is what I'm gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
So I immediately played through New Game Plus mode, and I will say this: New Game Plus mode of Arkham City features one of the greatest. Like if I were ever making a list, the fight against Mr. Freeze on New Game Plus is one of the greatest boss fights in the history of video games.
How does it differ from not New Game Plus? I forget. I've done them both, but I don't remember which one is.
So Mr. Freeze is a doctor, right? We call him Mr. Freeze, but he was Dr.
Right,
Victor Freeze
right. And it
before
takes
his
place.
unfortunate accident.
Right, so
Which
the fight
means
takes
that
place in
he's
this
not.
really awesome GCPD setting that he's now taken over.
Yeah, it's this beautiful thing, but he's a fucking doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So if you sneak up behind him, right, he's gonna learn that. He's not a fucking idiot.
Right.
So on New Game Plus, you need to find 9 distinct ways to surprise him.
Oh man.
You can't repeat anything. And it was awesome. Like, it was one of those things that was very cool in that game. And then the rest of it, I finished New Game Plus on Arkham City, no word of a lie, in 2 hours. Start
That's
to
amazing.
finish, 100%. I'm like, I'm just gonna do it today. I want to be done with this. I want to get back to Dark Souls. I'm not gonna hold back. I'm gonna do it. And it took me 2 hours. And I'm not lying about that. I'm not trying to brag. I'm not happy that it took me 2 hours. Because like it was supposed to be difficult. And stuff
Right.
like that Mr. Freeze thing, like that was awesome to me. And like that's why it was 2 hours, is because that one held me up for like 20 minutes. It took me like 3-4 tries. But then like you still had to do all the Riddler rooms, which was stupid in a New Game Plus setting. The game just like it broke me. It broke me, and it didn't truly break me until after I had done that. And like I have a blog out there, The World According to Devon. I have write-ups about Arkham City. Maybe I'll share them I'm going to share them on the Facebook page. Why the fuck not? They're out there, right? And you will see that this is completely the truth. This is how I felt at the time. But then I was reading through a forum, and someone wrote, I finally finished the game. I can't wait to try New Game Plus. This is going to be the greatest challenge of my video gaming life. And I'm like, is it? Is it really? Because no, it really
Well,
was
that's not fair, because at the
difficult all.
time you were sitting there playing a little game called Dark Souls that nobody else had really thought about
That's
yet.
kind of true. That's
Yeah.
true. I understand that like skill and different like that, but then I'm just like that this game could create such a difference, and I'm like, and if the problem is that I did not include the Catwoman stuff, that's a bad game. It doesn't change. It doesn't make it a better game. If I had played that stuff, because that's not what good game design is. Like if it was not additional content, like there's stuff that happens in the main game that I've been told, because I could never bring myself to play the Catwoman portion of that game. I've never done it, Sejohn. I've never done it.
It's got a couple of good room moments that I really like.
But I know for a fact that like certain things that happen in Batman's story are affected by things that Selina did.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what those are, and I don't care to know. And like that day, I'm like, I'm fucking done with DLC unless it is like clearly something that was worked on after the fact, like the Shantae DLC for Pirate Queen, playing as Risky through the game. That's different. But like even then, I can't bring myself to buy Friends to the End, because I'm like, I'll wait till it goes cheaper. Like I'm tired of buying the same game again, but with a different character. Where like in old days, beating the game would unlock a character, or like beating some absurd challenge would unlock a character.
Right.
I'm tired that like the only unlock code that you fucking need now is the 16 digits on your credit card. That I'm tired of it. I'm honestly tired of it. And you name check Battlefront 2, but let's talk about Destiny 2, a game that we played together the week that it came out. I haven't touched it since, Sejohn.
Not really. Not me really either. Like I have gone back and just been sad.
When the Path of Osiris DLC came out, it locked out a quarter of the game, because you could only do things if you were at the highest level, and the level cap raised for anyone who downloaded the DLC.
Right.
Like that is not in service of the consumer. That is
right. If I didn't want that DLC, suddenly I wasn't playing that game anymore. Like there wasn't anything to do if you didn't shell out cash, which is not the point. Like DLC is supposed to be additional content, not like the only content left, right? Like that's
additional
no
optional content.
Right.
Not just the fact that it's additional content. you should be able to have a fine experience without paying extra money.
Right.
And unfortunately, that's really not what games are at right now. That's not where they are. And that is why I play fucking Super Nintendo games.
Well, and I think that weirdly, the people to look at right now that have kind of done it right consistently is Nintendo. Like, weirdly, the people that hated the idea of DLC from the get-go didn't want to do it. They finally got dragged kicking and screaming into the world of DLC, and they were like, well, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it our way. So you look at things like Mario Kart, and the way that they handled that on the Wii, and then look at the way that they're handling things on the Switch right now. They put out Mario Kart, but they immediately put out just the edition of it that is everything. There's no more DLC for that game, because they were like, okay, we've done that, we're done, we're moving on. We don't need to make more money off of that. They could have very easily just put out an up-res to Mario Kart and then resold everybody the DLC, right? Like, they could have figured out some way to do that and get away with it, but they didn't.
Oh, you
and
mean
then,
like Call of Duty 4? like
right?
how they charge for the maps again?
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but and now we're looking at stuff like Mario versus Rabbids and seeing where that's going. And like I said, like they've proven to me that that's worth it. Splatoon is a really good example of that. Like, they put some stuff out for Splatoon, things that didn't break the game, but also like you didn't need to keep playing. And that, like, all sorts of good balances there. Like Nintendo has weirdly kind of shown people how to do it when it comes to downloadable content. After being the guys to hate it and shit on it for so long, they came in the door and they were just like, fine, let's do this. And they just laid it all out.
But let me say to you, and you're not wrong, I feel like they have done it right. I'm never going to buy DLC for Breath of the Wild. I just, it doesn't work for me. It doesn't fit into my life.
But
and if they ever,
to,
I understand that. I don't have to do that. I get that.
Right.
But like, it's just something that I know for a fact I'm never going to do. But what I'm getting to is if they release DLC for Super Mario Odyssey, that will be a huge thorn in my side. That will be a slap in the face from the big N.
Why?
Because that game is perfect. That game is, I mean, it's not, even I can admit that it has some flaws, right? But like, it doesn't need more. 999 moons, some of which are fucking jump rope 100 goddamn times. Like, it's fine. Like, you've done it. You don't need more of this.
Right.
And it just feels like once it ekes into a Mario game, it's also a slippery slope DLC. It honestly is. You're right. Nintendo is doing it right now, but they're also seeing just how lucrative it can fucking be.
Yeah.
And you want to hope that the devil does not like coerce you into going down a dark path, but like as you said, mobile games $2 fucking. Mm-hmm. Like, that used to be it.
Yeah.
And now
Nintendo will screw it up eventually, and when they do, we'll talk crap about it when they do. But until they do, like right now, look to Nintendo if you want to see where DLC is getting done right.
That's true. And you're right. They are doing it right. I'm just nervous for that day. And maybe it will never come. But, you know, look what fucking happened with loot boxes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think that's enough. I think, this has not been a, like, we're going to be positive in 2018. Shit.
I mean, love everybody. Play more.
Love everybody. Games. Yeah, love video.
Watch
you
movies.
Do everything.
Go outside and do some fun stuff.
All right, so I'm gonna leave you again in these last moments before the end of the episode with something that you're going to have to sit on and stew over and ruminate until next episode. So the Decker tradition is that on your birthday you get to go wherever you want to eat within a 90-minute drive.
Okay.
Now, we've talked before on the show about Borders in Leominster, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And it's sad because Borders is gone.
Yeah.
Borders lives on, Sejohn.
What?
At Happy Jack's on Route 12 in Leominster.
Oh, man.
For my birthday, I had border wings and border enchiladas.
That's amazing. And happy birthday to you.
Oh, dude, it was excellent. And we could talk more about it next time. But until then, if you're pissed off about my opinions on 500 Days of Summer, get at me on Twitter. I'm at Devon D. Decker.
And if you want to recommend any other indie greats to us, hit me up at Siege vs. the World.
Until then, he's like the wind through my trees. He ends the show perfectly.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Sejohn. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.